It's pre-dawn on Mustang Island, but I want to get to my next park. So I'm headed out, but I gotta be careful of this little fella. Man, he's fast. I'm hoping I might speed up my trip by taking a ferry across the Corpus Christi Channel. I took this video kind of anticipating that it would be really fun to travel across on this ferry, only to realize that the entire ride is about as long as the video here, and it wasn't all that thrilling. It was a little bit like being on a slowly moving bridge, but it did save me time, and it got me to this point where I'm at a little port here watching the sun come up, and I realized, oh, if I get to the park, I'll be able to enjoy the sunrise from there even more. Good morning, I'm Jay, and this is Goose Island State Park. The welcoming committee was out, and as has become somewhat customary, I try to use the cooler part of the day to run or hike, knowing I'll be more sedentary and try to stay in the shade in the afternoon and the hotter parts of the day. Turk's Cap trailhead sounds fun, so I hit that first. Then I drove past this pair of mutually aggressive mother and child to one of the park's big attractions. Drum roll please, ladies and gentlemen. It's the big tree. I came here with every intention to paint the big tree, but as I look around, there are so many more interesting motifs, whether it's a yellow sunflower with these cool blue minty leaves, or just the tangle of live oaks around the big tree. There's a lot more that captures my interest, and I don't mean disrespect to anyone who loves the big tree, but it almost feels a little bit Frankenstein's monster-ish, being supported by struts and held together by cables. So I think I'll turn my attention elsewhere and see how that painting turns out. I remembered that I owe myself a yellow primed purple painting because I skipped that yesterday on Mustang Island to go for a naturalistic plein air painting. And I think this grove right here is going to do the trick. Prior to my departure, I drew a 1-inch grid on the back of a plexiglass clipboard that I just had lying around. Now this is something I had seen James Gurney do before, and I wanted to try it. So I brought along a dry erase marker, and I'm going to close one eye and trace the tree that I'm seeing beyond the grid on the plexiglass. Now to make sure that the view doesn't change, you have to keep your eye in the same position. Fortunately, I had cleaned up the beach a little bit and I found this broken shovel, and I'm using its handle to keep my eye in the same position relative to the clipboard. Obviously, I had to use a fair amount of pressure to keep it wedged between my eye and the clipboard, so if I ever do this again, I'm going to have to come up with a better system. But at this point now, I have a dry erase marker drawing on a plexiglass grid, and I'm going to transfer those marks into a grid of corresponding size on the yellow primed park map. Is tracing cheating? Listen, every 2D representational artist is filling in coloring books. It's just a matter of the complexity. Let's not split hairs. If you want to know how to represent anything using opaque media, my first step that I always advise students is to establish your tonal range. So pretty quickly you're going to have to put in your lightest light and your darkest dark. So that's what I'm setting out to do here with big brushes and just kind of blobby shapes, knowing I'm going to go back over it later and fill in the texture and the detail. stole it from Fight Club, but I like to say,
on a long enough timeline,
all clothes become paint clothes. But you just hate to see it on the first wear. Ah, what a bummer. Sometimes when I paint, I reach an ugly point, like at Lockhart, makes me want to throw things. Sometimes, like today, I reach a fatigue point, and then it doesn't help if you ever have time constraints. I have a gotta go point as well. But I'm far from finished, so I'm going to try to take a break and then come back to this and put on some finishing touches. Even a short break can really help me reset. I had done a lot of the blocking in of the early painting with large brushes, but it's really time to switch to smaller brushes. So as I jump back into the painting, I'm really enjoying myself because I'm getting to that finishing stage, and I'm looking back at what I had done. You might look at some of the foliage of the trees and think, oh, this is a green. I thought you said it was going to be a purple painting. Well, it's sort of a blue-violet that was thinned down to a glaze, and by applying the paint that way over the yellow, they have an optical mixture, and it looks green. And then there are all sorts of different applications of paint, different approaches and marks that I made. So I'm really kind of pleased with how that is playing out. And then through the course of this finalizing everything, I like bringing everything up to a similar level of completion and finalizing the image as an overall design. Can I just clarify what I meant when I said gotta go point earlier? It sounded like I had to take a potty break, but what I was saying is I've got to get to a second park today, and so that point of departure is now. The sun is high in the sky. I'm off down the road to my next park, and that will be the next episode of the Texas State Park series. I hope you tune in. Thanks for watching.